Cowgirl Kind is a beef tallow skincare business based on high quality, small batches made with care and intention. All ingredients are carefully and thoughtfully sourced for the highest quality. It is an incredibly effective product. Cowgirl Kind is locally owned and handmade by Melinda Kirkby. Visit cowgirlkind.com. At Arena Mindset, we are empowering athletes to transform their lives by cultivating grit, resilience, purpose, and authenticity. We believe the mind is an athlete's most powerful tool, and by overcoming the challenges of mental performance, they can build unshakable confidence and achieve success in every arena of life.
You going to school?
I'm in online school.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I just kind of do whatever.
Well, good. Are you writing?
Yeah.
Good.
There's benefits, right?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, actually.
I drag her around. She gets on-the-job experience everywhere we
Absolutely.
go,
That's
right?
perfect.
Shh.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah. She meets
Absolutely.
new people. She has to learn how to have adult conversations. Like,
One day I'll learn to have it. I'm still a kid at heart.
that's a good thing, right? We should never grow up all the way. That'd be boring.
Yeah, exactly.
I think most of the people that we hang out with, though, that's pretty true, right? I mean, would we all be doing the things that we're doing
No,
if we were
absolutely not.
adults?
If we were true adults, we would.
Yeah. I mean, like legitimate gambling habits,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it is all a gambling.
It really is. Yeah. But it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so far, I haven't lost my house over it. So, you know,
Exactly. That's a good point.
I feel like it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in to Non-Pro in the Know. We're here at the Gym State Stock Horse Association show in Nampa, Idaho, and we are lucky enough to have Morgan Tweedy on the show. Morgan, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're glad that you have the time in your crazy show schedule to fit us in.
Absolutely. I don't know if it's a blessing or not, but I'm here.
Well, we're excited about it.
Well, thank you.
So you're here for Gym State Stock Horse Association show, and then you're back next week for Idaho as well, right?
Yep, I actually am.
Yeah.
I love it up here, so it's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
The weather hasn't been too bad,
The
right?
weather's perfect.
It's been pretty nice.
Yes, it
yeah.
has.
Sunny, but a breeze, so we're
Yeah.
not all dying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, we're sure glad to have you up in these parts. You're really good at what you do. For those of you who don't know, Morgan is the best show manager in the NRCHA business. He handles all of our premier events, as well as helping out at some of these smaller shows, and he is the master of what he does.
I wouldn't say master. I would say I just get by.
I don't know. I think everybody would pretty much disagree with that has you around. So I can tell you, I've seen behind the scenes, and I know how hard you work and how organized you are, and it's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. On that note, you just wrapped up the stakes, the stallion stakes,
Yep.
correct?
Yep, we sure did.
Yeah. How did that go this year?
It went good. You know, we had a little dirt issue there for a little bit, but we got through it. You know, it was a little tough this year being a new year with all our incentives. Made the entries a little tough to get through, but it's a learning process, and we've got to figure out our happy medium to get all our classes and schedule right. We didn't even have a schedule, and you know there was a chance of like 780 horses
Wow.
eligible, so it was a little bit of a scare at 1st and a little bit of tough on everybody entry wise to get through and going. But now moving forward, we'll be in a lot better shape next year.
Yeah, that incentive program's real new, correct?
Right.
And not
We
knowing
didn't
what
know
to expect.
And,
Yeah.
and even to build some kind of a schedule, it was like we didn't know what to do.
Makes it hard to plan
Oh.
a show of that magnitude without any information to base it on.
Yeah, and the board was really good about trying to sit down and figure out and kind of put out a little post to say, hey, you know, we need you guys to try to enter a little sooner so we can kind of get an idea to build a schedule. And
Right.
I mean, that was the right thing to do. And it was just a learning process. And moving forward, we'll be in a lot better shape for the stakes.
Right.
And it's going to be a really good program.
That incentive program looks, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with it. I know I lack a lot of knowledge in that department, but it looks like it's going to be a really great thing for the NRCHA.
Yeah, it's going to take a couple of years to really get going, but it's really going to be a good thing. And the payouts are going to be really, really good.
Right. Do you feel comfortable explaining a little bit more in depth how that works?
Well, you know, I mean, obviously the board can explain it a little better, but each stallion is registered and then their offspring, and as it goes, as you win, then incentive money goes to obviously the rider and the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it goes back to the breeder and it goes back to the stallion as well. So each division gets a paycheck. So
That's nice.
it's really nice. It's going to be good, and I know that a lot of other organizations, barrel racing horses and team roping horses, are doing this, and so it's going to be in the long run, it's going to be a really good thing.
So is it, as far as how it's set up and run, is it similar to like the Ruby Buckle?
Yes, real close. Yeah. Some of those are limited to how many stallions. Ours isn't limited at all, so this could be really big. And it looks, as being at the horse show, it looks nice when you get to see, when we do the finals, we tell each stallion and how many horses are coming back under that stallion.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's really cool for
Yeah.
the show to see which studs are producing and which ones people are breeding to, and so it's kind of neat. It's neat to see it follow through.
And that's, I mean, what a great benefit to the stallion owners.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you have hard facts and statistics to show what those offspring are actually doing in the show pen. Very accessible, very user friendly,
Yep.
and only a benefit for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be good for them in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very exciting. And it was cool to see the NRCHA adopting that program. And I'm sure it's one of those things that's going to take some time and
Yeah.
to figure out, trial and error, and unfortunately.
And I think the NRCHA is going to kind of back that until it gets rolling itself. But it's going to be a good thing once it's established and all the bugs are worked out on it. But yeah, I think it's going to be, for the long term, it's going to be good for all these stallions and producers.
Right. So approximately how many horses did you end up with at the stakes then?
I don't remember exactly how many stakes horses was. It was 700, and I think 80 were eligible.
Okay.
Obviously, we had a lot that entered, but some of them had to scratch, and they didn't know until getting through our entries came out before our world show was over with, and it was hard to know if your horse was gonna be sore or tired or what. And so we had quite a few scratches, but I think next year will be even bigger.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So, yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So overall, how do you feel like, I mean, with your inability to truly have a good plan in place just due to the new flow of things, do you feel like things went off well?
Yeah, I think for the most part. I mean, I realize that, like a lot of the non-pros, we didn't have certain classes and so it probably hurt the non-pro a little bit. But I think next year we'll have a better idea and better schedule, and we'll get a lot of those classes back.
Okay.
And so obviously the time frame is, we only have so many days in Vegas, and that just the crunch on classes and how to get them all through and not go till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every morning was our biggest concern. So
yeah, that's a long, hard day on judges and
judges
crew
and
and gate help. And I mean,
absolutely.
you got tractor drivers and cattle crew.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many people working behind the scenes that are really putting in the days.
Yeah, exactly. And so it wasn't a bad show this year, but by adding in the classes, we'll have to find the happy medium where to go further, and I there's a good group of people on the board that could figure that out and try to move forward and pick the best schedule we can for next year. Right.
And I mean, that's just a whole other part of the logistics of what goes on and behind the scenes is mapping out those venues and the schedules that they have other events booked at those venues, right? So you're trying to fit in a window that they're allowing you.
Right. And so, just like South Point, which is an extremely good place to work at, the crew there is unbelievable. And usually I walk in the door and everything's set, and I can talk to Joe Baumgartner and those guys ahead of time, a month ahead of time. We're going over things, and if we want to change something or do something, and I usually walk in and like they had just finished a show. There was still no sand in the cut and pin. Like we had quite a bit of stuff to do before, and we got through it pretty easy. But yeah, a lot of these turnovers were really, really tough.
Yeah, sounds like it was a tight window there.
It was, and those, I will tell you this, like the stall, like cleaning the stalls and everything, they were amazing. How they got everything done in time and cleaned and ready to go.
I've only been to the South Point a handful of times to show, but it is a pretty impressive process how they operate the stall cleaning and the number of people they have
Yes,
working towards cleaning those stalls and keeping the entire facility clean is
right.
it's crazy.
And that place is unreal for cleanliness.
Yeah.
It is really nice.
It really is. It's a very nice facility. It's always got great ground. The air conditioning is so cold that I had to literally the last time I was there in September, I had to buy a jacket.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and with facility people, you know, every time you go to a different location, they're always a little different in how you handle things, and that place is just so nice to deal with.
Right.
So nice.
Well, and I mean, on that note, I mean, we're not their only customers by a long shot,
No.
and I'm sure when you consider the number of associations that come through there, the number of events and different disciplines, like they're dealing with so many different types of requests for ground and setup and schedule, and
Right. Exactly.
it's got to be mind blowing, and it would take a really good crew to manage that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and then you guys on top of it coming in there and you know, mapping out the schedules and making sure the ground's good and all of those things. Like it's a work of art.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. And this time we had a little bit of tough time with the ground, but we were able to get it once we got through a class. We were able to get it changed and get it fixed. And it's hard once you start a class to change anything. It's got to be the same for everybody all the way through. And
It does.
that's the tough stuff. And most people don't understand that, but it's got to be fair across
Yes.
the board.
100%. And yeah, and you're not saying it has to get through the whole show. You're just saying,
You have to get through that class.
yeah, if the open futurity went, all of the open futurity has to go. Or if the open, no, obviously not the stakes, but
Yes.
whatever the class was, that class has to complete.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's always a tough decision to make, and I want it to be fair for everybody, and sometimes you have to do what's against your grain to get through it. And then the moment we got through that class, then we switched it and did a little change in how our dirt worked.
Well, it's a science. I mean, getting ground right is a science. There are literal people that specialize in it and get flown all over the country
Exactly.
to manage that. So much goes into it. I don't know enough about it. I would be a mess, but yeah. So sounds like it all wrapped up well, though, right?
Yeah, I think it did. I think it came out good, and the payouts were really good, and so yeah,
Good.
it was pretty amazing. Like almost 100,000 higher than the first couple years we were there. So it's a big difference in payouts.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
That's a
pretty neat.
lot of money. How much has the attendance, the participation grown in those years as well? I mean, estimate.
Yeah, I think obviously it's grown quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, at a nice facility, people want to come,
Yeah.
and whether you're an owner that just wants to maybe gamble a little bit, watch the horses, and go back to gambling or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's other stuff in town to do.
Oh, yeah.
But South Point's kind of I pull in there, and unless I have to go get a part or something, I'm there from start to finish, and there's tons of places to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice things to go do. If you want to go watch a movie, you know, as a spectator, you can go watch a movie.
They even have a bowling alley, don't they?
They got 2 bowling alleys.
They have 2 bowling
They
alleys.
have one upstairs above the prefects that are like 66 lanes.
You can hear it sometimes.
Yeah, it sounds like thunder and lightning.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, the first time I was there, I was like, what? Is it storming out there? And somebody's like, no, that's the bowling alley. I'm like, oh, there's a
Yeah.
bowling alley.
It's a pretty neat deal upstairs.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really neat facility. I know the first time I showed there, it was actually at this National Stock Horse Association show, and I was so intimidated and like overwhelmed by being in that building where all those great people have shown and performed, and the number of times I've watched events on TV, whether it was breakaway events or shows, reining shows, cow horse shows. It's a cool feeling to ride into that pen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, you know, there's the ropings and everything that go on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty amazing all the stuff they have. And Mr. and Mrs. Gong of like they've done a really good job with that facility, and Ryan Growney runs it, and all the other guys down the line, Dave Russo and Stallworth and all those guys, they just do a really good job of managing that place.
For sure. For sure. So tell me about your background. This is a pretty specific niche that you got yourself into, a pretty specific career path. So tell me about what led you here. Like, where'd you grow up? Were you?
Well, I grew up about 4 miles from where I live today. So I grew up in Sanger, California. Lived there my whole life. My dad was big into the horse still, and he rode colts for different people and trained a few mules, and then he was a horseshoer at the time, and then he got into construction. So I started junior rodeoing and roping at 9 years old, and my dad was in construction at that point, so he was out of town all the time. He was an iron worker and started his own company, so it seemed like he was gone quite a bit. So my mom had to pack me around to all the junior rodeos and all the things, and my parents were really good to us, and so I kind of grew up in that atmosphere, and then I started dating my wife, and she showed horses. She showed rail and trail and a little bit of cow horse back in the day, and so started dating her. So that kind of dragged me to a few shows, and I had shown a little bit as a kid, and knew that I didn't want to be showing rail or trail or any of
Right.
that stuff. It wasn't.
So you were
fast enough.
more in the rodeo field of things.
Yeah, so I started roping calves when I was like sophomore in high school, and that became more of what I wanted to do, was rope calves. And then when I turned 18, I was already dating my wife my senior year in high school, and my soon-to-be wife, but
High
at the
school
time, so
sweethearts.
I started chasing her to all the horse shows, and then she finally got into reining, and so that was a little bit faster moving, a little
Yeah.
faster pace, and so then I got conned into. I wanted her horse trainer to rope with me, and he had roped back in the day, and so I wanted him to rope at a couple ropings with me, and he said, "You show your wife's horse like 3 times," and so I started showing a little bit of reiners, and I realized I couldn't count.
Oh,
So
some break a pattern going on.
yeah, I might have won first show and got cocky, and then he said, "Come down for a couple lessons," and then that blew my mind, because then I was trying to learn and know more, and I was better off not knowing what I was doing. But it did make a difference on, I thought I could ride, and I really didn't know how to ride. And then when I started heeling on a reining horse, then I really knew I didn't know how to ride. And I have a lot of respect for people that show like roping horse, and it's been a show horse. You learn not to keep your legs in them, and
Yeah.
and so that helped me a bunch. And then
Did you feel like that experience really helped your roping?
it did.
It did.
It really did. I didn't realize that I hung a leg in my heel horse when I came around the corner, and when I started riding some of my wife's reiners and would come around the corner, they would go somewhere. It wasn't where I wanted them to be. So
Like, no wonder my rope horse has been ducking in. Ah.
So yeah, I didn't even know what keeping the shoulder up and all this stuff was until all that happened. But then it did help me, and so then I kind of went to college, and then I thought I was going into my dad's business, and he decided to retire and buy the cattle ranch he grew up on. So
Oh,
he switched gears, retired, and bought a bunch of cows, and then started running the cattle ranch. And so I kept doing stuff with him, but then I started welding quite a bit, because I grew up welding around him, and so I started running a welding truck, and I was always out of town, just like my dad was. And so
Oh, yeah.
I ended up getting married 9 years later after dating Deb.
okay. So you guys dated for 9 years.
Yes.
She's a patient woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a patient woman.
But she was gone to horse shows all the time too, so.
Well, priorities. I get it.
But we got married, and she continues to show horses, and I welded for quite a few years, and then I ran a sandblasting company in Fresno, California, and then I went into business for myself and started a little welding shop, and my specialty is horse trailers and lots of aluminum and that kind of stuff. And so how I got into the cow horse thing was my wife started doing the awards when the snaffle bit was in Fresno. So a guy by the name of Rick Dreyer was the show manager for the NRCHA, and he kept hounding me like, "Why don't you come work for us?" And so Cecil Hillerman kind of did all the ground for the snaffle bit and the setups and everything. And Cecil had taken a job with the city of Madera, and he was kind of promoted to a boss. And so he said, "Hey, I can't do the whole snaffle bit. Will you come and split it with me?" So that's how I got started. Was I came in to work on the cattle crew and setups, and
Nice.
then a few years went by, and Rick quit and retired, and a guy by the name of Mike Lund
Okay.
took over, and he asked me to start going to all the shows. And so I was just kind of like the operations guy. If something broke, I could fix it. If something needed to be unloaded, setups and that kind of thing. And I did that. And then Mike kind of wanted to retire, and so he retired. And so then Chris Jeter and I kind of took over, and we kind of share some of the duties. And some shows I kind of take lead, and some shows he takes the lead, and we just kind of moved along through all these years. Kind of as a
Nice.
joint deal.
So for those of the people watching that don't know who Cecil is, can you tell them who he is?
So yeah, Cecil Hillerman, which I've known my whole life. His dad was a superintendent for my dad, and I grew up around him. Great guy, very knowledgeable. He started clear back when he was 18. He actually owned the arena, and they would take the arena to each facility,
Oh, wow.
and he would set up the NRCHA's, and so they'd load it on a diesel truck and take it to the next facility each time they set it up. And so Cecil was there for a long. He was coordinated all the dirt. Great guy. He still works a few horse shows. Believe he works Reno, and he works the stock show in Vegas. Great guy.
Yeah, I
Think the
see
world of
him
him.
working his buns off at those two shows. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a good guy.
Yeah. So he owned the panels, the arena.
He owned everything back then.
He just loaded up on a flatbed trailer and literally brought the arena to the
diesel
show.
truck, yeah.
Oh
He would
my
come to the
gosh.
show, and so that's how they started. And then they started going to facilities that had all this stuff. And then,
So in those early days, what were those facilities like? I mean,
well, they'd go to a Save Mart Center or something like that, a big coliseum that didn't have any dirt or anything, and then they would just build it all and have the dirt hauled in, and then Cecil would set up all the pins, and he would drag it. There was no fancy arena drags. They used the circle hair or whatever
my
they
gosh.
had, and that's what the dirt was.
we've gotten spoiled.
Yeah, we've gotten really spoiled.
We've gotten really spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't complain about the dirt quite as much back then.
No. Well, and back in the day, it was fairgrounds, and
Yeah.
I mean, we've all probably ridden at a fairgrounds a few times, and
Yeah,
it's
it was
not
just
always the
whatever
best
dirt you could
ground.
get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Normally
wasn't.
it's outdoors, and it's got rained on or didn't,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
and there may be a water truck, there might not.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's just crazy now. You go to even here at the Idaho Center, this ground is great, and
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
consistent for the most part. Like
Yes,
I've shown
exactly.
here many times, and it's pretty much the same ground every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's great here. I love this place.
Yeah, it is a really nice facility here at the Idaho Horse Park. It houses four of our major cow horse shows here, 2 Gym States and 2 Idaho State Stock Horse Association shows, as well as many reignings, many cuttings. It's a very busy facility, and they're growing like crazy.
And the facility people are just great here.
They really are good to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Lori, all of them are really good.
Yeah.
Pat,
Yeah,
Yep, they're really good.
absolutely. So on that note, so the Hackamore Classic is looking for a new facility, correct?
So yes, Tulsa's a little tough on us. Obviously, costs were always an issue. Cattle are always an issue, and obviously this year cattle have gone up tremendously. We're in a shortage of cattle, so it's been tough. There's a change over there to a show right after us that takes like 3,500 stalls, so they don't want to take down very many stalls to allow us to build what we need arena-wise. So it's just been cattle are outside, really hot and really humid, and so it's kind of a tough place to put a show on. It's a great facility.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work for us real well,
Right.
and the costs are pretty high.
Well, and those of us who've worked cattle that are hot and unhappy, that's not necessarily fun. You can take a really, really good cow and make it really bad, really fast.
We all get cranky when we're hot.
I do. Yeah. Well, that all makes sense. So Have you guys been looking in any particular direction?
So yeah, they've looked at several different places. Obviously, this one is one that would work really well, I think, for our shows. Um, there's, they're just trying to weigh options and figure out costs and obviously cattle costs, which this place should be pretty decent. There's cattle pretty close by, and obviously the weather would be warm, but it wouldn't be
Not humid. Yeah.
And so, July anywhere is tough, whether it's Texas, Oklahoma, wherever, anywhere back in the East Coast, it's pretty hot.
Right.
So, trying to find a location that probably better suited. This is a very good location for that, I think. But it's still all in talks. I know it's been presented to the board and they've really started looking into different things. So
Right.
there's a good chance that it's in their sights and
Good.
something to look at. And because it's Hackamore's kind of a traditional thing, and
It is, and it's really cool.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, they'll find the right facility and we'll continue to keep having it.
Right. Absolutely. Are there others that are in strong consideration at this point? Do you know?
Well, I don't know for sure. Like I haven't sat through all the board meetings and stuff, but I know there's places that are building new facilities, and those I'm assuming are trying to throw their hat in the deal. You hear talks about different places, but I couldn't say like
Right.
who's really trying to get in there or not.
There's so much to consider in those situations. You got to have the right number of stalls, the right number of arenas, the right number of cattle pens, and then on top of it, like we talked about before, these venues have already got schedules in place for other events, and so trying to make sure you're working within those windows, I'm sure it's a logistical nightmare, I would
Well,
imagine.
And I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but we've picked out dates and we've picked out venues, but the cattle might not be available in that country. So then you're having to truck those cattle from a different area, which is a big expense.
Huge expense.
Instead of us going to find out where the cattle are and what the right size and what time of year those cattle are in the area, and then choose a place that's closer to the cattle is probably the best scenario, because you can have a reining and you don't even need a fence to have a reining.
Absolutely.
But to have a cow horse show, you got to have cattle, and it's a tough situation.
For sure.
And this year we're in a shortage, and we like to use Mexican cattle quite a bit, and now the border's shut down for a second time, and
Yeah.
so that's going to make things a little tougher, and so it's going to be a tough year on cattle.
Oh,
Hopefully
for sure.
it'll start getting better as we go on to next year, but right now they're just expensive.
Well, and anybody that's trying to have cattle at home to work for themselves, they know the struggles. It's really hard to get a hold of cattle right now. They're
Well,
extremely
they're
expensive.
worth so much, and if these steers that we're using are worth $3.20 a pound, and we've got them in the heat, and they're losing 5 pounds a day, or they're losing in shrink, or they're losing 10 pounds a day in shrink. That's each time you do that, 10 pounds is $35
Yeah.
each day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they got to get on a truck. And so if we can't maintain their weight and make them happy, we won't get cattle from that guy anymore. And
No.
so it's a tough time of year, especially in July.
Right. Yeah, cattle have become such a huge investment for our ranchers. For them to even allow us the opportunity to do what we do is generous. But if we're not doing it well, then it's probably out of the question.
Yeah. And so we've got to make it right for them, or they won't continue. And I learned a deal the other day. I went to a cattlemen's meeting in California, and the state representative said the average cattle rancher in the state of California is 40 head.
What? 40 head?
So when you talk about big numbers,
Yeah.
there's very few guys that have big numbers that can handle 2,000 head or 2,500 head.
That's
So-
crazy.
And that's kind of this all across the United States is that way. There's very few guys that have big numbers. There's lots of people that have small numbers.
Right.
And
But
so,
problem with that is you can't gather from multiple different places because now you don't have consistency in height, weight, blah, blah, blah,
Exactly.
like all the things that we want as
Brands, ear
competitors,
tags, we don't have enough.
how they were handled before they
pins.
got here,
Right.
keeping them separated in the pins.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I didn't
it's-
realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot to be said with that.
Yeah. Well, and how many cattle do you expect the Hackamore Classic? How many do you expect you'll need?
You know, I'm trying to remember last year. I thought we had like 1,500.
So yeah, you think about that. That's a huge number, and you need to get it. I mean, do you guys occasionally break it up between a couple suppliers?
Not normally.
No.
Usually it's one supplier. We might have multiple ear tags, like one supplier's sending us some from one ranch and one from another ranch or yards.
Mm-hmm.
But not normally do we have, not very often. Occasionally we'll have two different suppliers through one guy, but there'll be two different brands.
Wow.
So yeah, we're trying to deal with someone where you get them all from the same guy, ideally.
So I can see why you would say that alone can dictate where you can have the show.
Right.
Because how many people are there in the country to even choose from
Right.
that will allow it and are on board?
Right. Exactly.
Wow. This
Pretty
is
amazing.
Yeah, I had never heard those numbers or put that much thought into it. I mean, I'm aware how hard it is to get cattle, and I've from the behind the scenes and stuff I've done with the associations, I know that it can be very challenging, but those are big numbers. I've never seen it from the behind the scenes of a premier event, and that's
There's a lot to it.
yeah.
And it's obviously every year is a learning process, but it when something's valued that high, it's a risk for everybody, you know. And I've talked to I have a friend, his name's John Lacey, and he's one of my customers, and he supplied cattle to Snaffle Bit, him and Dave Woods, and he supplied cattle to the South Point Casino in the middle of the summer, and he's had as big as 15% shrink.
Oh wow.
And he says you don't ever recover from that. So, you know, today's money at a 15% shrink, you know, you could be talking close to $200, and he's only charging you 150 or 140.
Oh.
So he's losing money.
And risking, you know.
Yeah, and so that's on one head. Now you put it on several thousand. That's a big loss.
Jeez. Yeah. That's like straight up generous.
And when you look at like Snafflebit or the World Show, there was probably close to $13 million worth of cattle we went through.
Whoa.
So that's a big investment.
That's a lot of money.
Sure.
That's a lot of money, and that's a lot of responsibility
Yeah, we're
for
responsible for them.
you and the association and us as competitors. I mean, we've all made the mistake as a competitor to, maybe not all, but I feel like a lot of us have made the mistake of running a cow into a fence on accident or whatever, getting in the moment and thinking about getting the job done and not thinking about making sure that cow walks out of there in the same shape it walked in. And you can see when you talk about these numbers why it is so important to not only be a good horseman, but to also be a good cattleman
Right.
in these situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're basically the organization owns those cattle when they're on your
Mm-hmm.
premises. And, you know, I've always had fears of, you know, someone going down and poisoning the water troughs or doing something like that and
Oh.
wiping out. And so, like, South Point Casino, I make sure security is running up and down in a pickup
Mm-hmm.
all the time, making sure that there's nobody walking around our water troughs.
Yeah. That'd be devastating.
It would be devastating.
And I mean, you'd have to be a complete psychopath to do that, but I mean, they're out there.
They are. And it only takes once, and it
Well-
would be horrible.
I mean, and honestly, a catastrophe, something of that magnitude could literally cripple the sport of reining cow horse.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
we have a major failure and we could all be facing the end of our excitement for this show and
Absolutely.
many more to come. That's
So the care of the cattle is a big issue, and we've got good crews in all our facilities that watch and take care of our cattle, and it's, you know, most people showing don't think about stuff like that.
no, and it's such a huge part of it. Your cattle crew, I mean, and talk about underappreciated. I mean, those guys are out there in the heat, in the rain, in the snow, and they're working all day and night. They're feeding after the show's over. They're feeding before the show starts.
Absolutely.
I mean-
they're a couple hours, you know, practice pen start earlier. They're there settling our horses
Mm-hmm.
out there a couple hours before everybody else starts the show, and there a couple hours after the show ends, and
Mm-hmm.
sorting and if they have to doctor anything or
Right.
whatever. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot to that.
And the amount of responsibility they're taking on to ensure the health of those cattle while we have them
Absolutely.
in our grasp, that's a huge weight on their shoulders.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we pay them to do it, and that's,
I hope
you
you're
know,
paying them well.
yeah, that's a big thing. You got to take care of your employees.
You do, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah, those are some staggering numbers, and hopefully some food for thought for people when they think about not only how they treat the cattle, how they treat the crews, and you sometimes we get a little upset because we feel like our cow wasn't that great or whatever, but man, like stop and think about the logistics of what happened. Those things just got shipped from wherever and hauled in and put it in a new pen and tried to get settled, and the crew's trying to make sure they're happy and healthy, and
Right.
it's a lot to ask about everybody involved and the cattle.
Absolutely. And we try to take the best care we can.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys do a great job. I haven't had a ton of experience at the premier events, but I can tell you that what I have been involved in, it seems like your cattle crews are really good about pushing them in quiet, about
Yeah.
they don't shoot them through the gate 100 miles an hour at you, and yeah, you guys got good people in place doing their jobs.
Yeah. Good group.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by 27 Equine Marketing, the Northwest's premier equine photography and videography company, specializing in conformation and black background photos, as well as quality show reels and sell videos. For premium content, contact us to highlight your equestrian program. 27 Productions, creating digital content for the Western world. From music videos to Western wear and product promotion, we create engaging materials that connect with your audience.
One time my husband was calling one in, and it was paying attention to him, and his buddy set up behind a tree, right? And when they finally noticed them, it spooked and was like within from me to you from running him over as it ran off. Like we don't know that it ever even saw his buddy. Like, and they got it all on video, and it was amazing. I was like, I bet he peed his pants.
I have a friend that went to Wyoming, and the guy called him in. The guy was right behind him. And he said, I bought the best camo. I bought the best everything. And he said, I was scared. I couldn't even lift my bow. Like, he called him right up to me.
Like reach out
He
and
was
pet him.
thrashing, and he's like, you shoot him? He's like, heck no. I was just wanting him to leave.
Just go away. I won't harm you if you don't harm me.
He's like, he goes, you don't realize how big they are until they're standing right there next to you.
They're huge. Yeah, they're very, very big with big O antlers on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he said the next day, he's like, I was so squeamish, I couldn't even get close to one.
So this year, my husband was, they were up elk hunting, and his buddy was calling, and he was set up to shoot. And all of a sudden, his buddy's like calling him off. And he's like, what's wrong? Like, they had one coming in. He's like, what's wrong? He's like, you had a mountain lion like 60 feet away stalking you.
Wow.
They called in a freaking mountain lion, and my husband didn't know it was there. It was off behind him, and he's paying attention to where the elk's coming, but his buddy noticed it, and so he starts like calling him off, like, hey, and I guess it was all crouched down, stalking him.
Really?
Yeah.
That's scary.
I was like, yeah, and my husband was like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, I don't know that it is. I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, that's probably not the best idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll stick to cow horse. That sounds like a bad idea to me, but. Do you
You're
hunt?
not getting stalked.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe.
Just that one time.
Just the one time. Do you hunt?
No, I'm going on a fishing trip though.
Oh, hey, where you going?
I'm going to the Amazon this year.
No way. How'd you get that opportunity?
So Fabio, who's a friend of mine, he is a vet from Brazil. He came out here and worked for our vet, Troy Ford in California. And he asked me, so he and our vet and the vet's son, who's a vet, and his two brothers and another couple guys, we're all going. So I'm going to go a little early and meet his mom. His dad's passed away, but they were kind of big in the quarter horse still. And so go hang out for 2 days and meet his family, and go on to the Amazon to fish for a week.
That's insane. What a cool opportunity.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
When are you doing that?
August.
Ooh, nice.
So I don't have anything planned in August, and it's going to work out, and it's going to be a blast.
How long of a trip is that? How long are you be gone?
So I think one flight is, I don't know, it's like 16 hours. So we have to go past and then come back or something. But it's yeah, I think we've got the whole entire lodge with the amount of guys. I think it takes like 10 guys for the lodge and our guides and everything. But so we'll have like the whole place. And
So you're not going to stay in a wall tent somewhere in the Amazon?
no,
Oh, come on.
it's we're gonna stay in a pretty good little place. And his two brothers have been there already, so it's gonna be like they know the whole. But yeah, there's some big bass and piranhas and stuff. And
Oh, wow.
it's gonna be fun.
So those are the things you're fishing for, or is there other things
No,
too?
I think there's all kinds of stuff we can fish for, but I think it's kind of like Bear Gillis stuff where you're. So it's going to be fun. I've only been to Canada, so I've never been to any other country. So I've even been to Mexico,
I don't even think this is anything like Canada.
but I've always wanted to go to Brazil
Oh, that'd be so
and
cool.
go to the Amazon and stuff. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Brazil too. It's on my bucket list. What an amazing place.
Yeah, my buddy's been kidnapped once. You know, his family. They think he had money back in the day in big cities. They'd kidnap the kids and stuff. And so
What?
I'm like, you sure we're not going to get kidnapped, right? And he's like, no, we're not going anywhere near the big cities. We're not going. I'm
Wow.
like, all right, I'm trusting you on this deal.
Wow. I have a cousin that spent some time there, and we talked about maybe going there on vacation one day or something, just pipe dreams. But he's like, when you go out on the town, make sure that you don't pack anything extra. Like, only take the money that you planned on spending that day. Don't take anything extra with you because you will get robbed. And I was like, I don't want to go.
Yeah, that's what I was a little worried about too. And I'm like, so like, do we need to get shots and everything? And he's like, I'll ask my brothers, but they're both doctors, so I'll find out if we need to get shots. And I'm like, well, like malaria and all this kind of stuff.
Right?
I have no idea what we need to have, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna be fun.
What a cool
Yeah,
adventure.
it's gonna be awesome.
Wow. I'm impressed. That'll be exciting. I'll be excited to hear about it when you get back.
Yeah.
Next
it
time I
should be
see you.
fun. And I grew up fishing. Like my grandfather had a bass boat, and we fished 2 times a week and night fished and did all kinds of stuff. And now I haven't fished in years, and so it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Kind of reminiscent.
yeah. Might be a little bigger fish though.
Maybe. And some that might bite you back.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have a guide.
Can't imagine trying to get the hook out of a piranha. I don't really know.
No.
How does that work?
I think you just probably cut the line or something.
Something.
You can say you caught one, take a picture.
Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious. What a cool, fun trip.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. How exciting. Well, that's quite the adventure. So do you have other hobbies, other things you do outside of all the chaos of show manager? Your phone never stops, and that's fine. I get it. Like,
Well, with having a little welding shop, I do a lot of rodeo guys, trailers, and a lot of horse show people, and so that was a rodeo guy. Spencer's been to the NFR a few times, but
Nice.
yeah, I have lots of. My phone rings all the time, wanting me to fix something. So today was a lot of boat trailers and a lot of horse trailers that they were calling to get fixed. The only other thing I get to do is I get to go on the Vistadores ride, and that's kind of a really cool thing that I really enjoy. I've been kind of blessed to be asked to be a part of. And
so I know a small part of that, but share it. Like, it sounds like such a cool experience. Tell us as much as you can about that. I think that's a great opportunity.
the best way to explain it, it's the coolest horse show for guys. And you can compete in as many events. They have a one-man, one-horse, and pretty much you compete in every event. Or you can just pick individuals. Some people just team rope. Some people do brand. Some people horse race. Some people cut, trail class.
Oh, so there's like a variety of
It's a horse show.
are we talking like,
Cow horse to reining to halter to.
I was thinking more like ranch rodeo, but it's like,
Well, they have some rodeo kind of events too, double mugging and that kind of stuff. But yeah,
wow.
it's a really fun time to compete in the events. You have to go on 2 rides. They have a ride to the Mission, so you get to go to San Ynez and go to the mission, the Padre blesses everybody, and then you ride back to the lower camp, and then the next day you ride from the lower camp to the upper camp.
Okay.
And you have to go on these rides to be able to compete.
The camaraderie of it. And
Oh, it's unbelievable.
are they long rides? Is it?
So I think the second ride, so the first ride I think is probably maybe 8 miles or so.
Okay.
The second ride's probably 18 to 20 miles the next day.
Okay.
And you go from like the San Ynez Valley up into the mountains.
Oh, wow. I bet it's
So-
beautiful.
It's really cool. It's neat. The ride's fun. You get to visit with so many people and just a great group of guys
Have you made
from all
some
over the place.
good friendships from that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really good friendships.
Yeah.
It's something I like really look forward to every year.
Yeah.
I've only been in a couple of years, but it's just a neat group of guys.
That's cool. You got any good stories you can share with us?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. I figured. So, you're also kind of a prankster for fun too, huh? You like pulling some pranks and
Well,
giving people
maybe a
a
little
little
bit.
bit of a hard time.
Sure.
Tell
Why
me
not?
some. I know you kind of keep work fun by pulling some of that with some of your coworkers and such.
Sure.
Got any good stories you can share with us on that one without criminalizing
So
yourself
I've
to
had
death?
some pretty good ones pulled on me, actually.
Oh, tell us.
So a couple years ago at the Stakes, so it was April Fool's Day, and it was the night of the banquet. So my wife and the office girls decided they got with Joe Baumgartner, 'cause he's a good friend, and got room service to give them Chris Jeter's keys to his room. And obviously my wife had my keys, and they went up and switched all our jeans. So if you don't know who Chris Jeter is, he's a lot taller than I am. So, and my wife called it the way it was going to work. So there's a little spot called the Bronx Shack there at South Point, and that's where we kind of go hang out after the show's over with and have a couple drinks. And so we hang out there as long as we can before we have to go to the banquet. So I race up to the room. My wife's leaving. She has my clothes laid out on the bed for me. So I just turn this thing on?
You are a busy man.
Too many customers.
Well, that's not a problem when you're running a business, I guess, though, is it?
No. It's not during an interview. So anyways, I race up there. She's headed out to start working, checking people in for the banquet. And she's like, put your clothes out. So I go to jump in the shower, go to put my clothes on. And I'm like, these pants are gigantic. So I go, it must have been something she bought on sale, and they're just way too big. And so I throw that pair, and I go to the closet, and I get another pair out, and I put those on, and they're like, holy smokes, these things are gigantic. I go to the third pair, so I try 4 pairs, and they're all gigantic. So I thought, the pair I'm wearing today is filthy dirty. I can't go back and wear that pair, so it is the banquet. So I put them on, and I stack rings around my boot of these gigantic legs. And I go to put my belt on, and it looked like I put a rope around my waist because I had to button
Oh
them
my
up.
gosh.
And then, so I'm trying to pull the folds out in between each belt loop because they're so big. Didn't realize that they'd posted it. Everybody down there. Well, Chris had got to his room, which had all my pants, and he couldn't get them past his thighs.
Oh, no.
But he had a pair hidden
Oh.
in an overnight deal that the girls hadn't found yet. So he was able to put a pair on. So he gets down, and I show up at the deal, and he's like, man, I had the funniest thing. He said, I had one of my friends take my clothes to the cleaners before I left, and I'm pretty sure they put all her pants in with mine. And I thought, that's odd. And I got to thinking, so I watching everybody, and they all have a grin on their face, and I just can't figure out what's going on. I haven't found my wife yet to say every pants in my closet, they're all gigantic. What did you buy me, or what did you do? And so I go off to the bathroom, and I'm standing at a urinal going to the bathroom, and someone says to me, how do those pants fit? And I thought, why would a guy tell me that?
That's a weird thing for somebody to say in a bathroom.
And so I was like, wait a second, something's happened. Someone's pulled a prank on me. So I come back out, and I was like, Jeter, were they all cinches? Were they all the same label as this pair? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, we just had a April pulled on us. So everybody thought it was a great, and it was probably the best prank that's ever been pulled on me.
That's awesome. But he got lucky though, having that sneaky pair
Sure,
hidden.
he did.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of got the brunt of that one.
Yeah, I think it was Bergen that said, well, now you can say you've been in Chris's pants.
You guys know each other a little better than you used
Yeah.
to. Yeah, that's hilarious.
And then I think I pulled one on you once.
Yeah, actually, the first time we met was at this show 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And you definitely pranked me worse than I have ever been pranked in my entire life.
Well, do you want to tell the story?
Sure, I'll tell it from my point of view because
Okay.
I was so confused as it was happening. So in my former life, I did figure competitions, which is a form of bodybuilding, right? And I was a coach and a competitor, and I haven't done that in 10, 15 years. I mean, it's been a long time, right? So, and not many people really know that about me. It's not something I really talk about, right?
Which
So-
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. So we had never actually met, but I was doing some marketing stuff for Gym State Stock Horse Association and was just doing some little interviews, 30-second little reels for the show. And I had never met you. And well, first I embarrassed myself when I even asked you to do the interview because I worded it in a way that probably wasn't the most professional looking back on it. Because you were apprehensive of doing the interview, and I was like, "Oh, we'll just find a dark corner." And I was like, "I don't even know this guy. Why am I talking about taking him into a dark corner? That is not a good idea." So then I told a friend of mine that I had done that and it embarrassed myself, and they took it and rolled with it, which I did not know at the time. So I come back to get you for the interview, like, "Hey, you ready?" And you're like, "Yeah, let's go." And so I'm like trying to talk you through what I'm gonna ask, and you're like, "Man," and you tell him what you said.
So I asked you if I knew you.
Yeah.
I said, I'm sure I've met you before. And you said, no, you haven't met me. And so prior to that, the friend had sent me a picture of you on the stage at a competition. So I had this picture of you in a bikini. Mm-hmm. So,
Opposing suit,
Okay.
you know.
well, it was kind of like a bikini.
It's kind of like it's a lot like a bikini. It just makes me feel better.
So I'm like, how am I going to pull a prank on her with this picture? I'm trying to figure it out. So we're walking along, and I was like, sure, I don't know you. And you're like, well, where are you from? I was like, I'm from Sanger, California. And it's like, where would you know me from? Well, you said I lived in Reno for a while, and I lived in Alaska. And I was like, well, man, I think I know you from somewhere, but I've been to Reno before because I worked at Snaffle bit. And we kept walking along, going outside to do this interview, and finally I said, I think I know where I know you from. And you're like, well, where? And I was like, well, I used to judge these competitions back in the day, and I think I judged you once. I said, hang on a second, let me look on my phone. And I pulled up your picture on stage,
Yeah.
and I turned it around and showed you.
And I'm like totally taken back.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
melted.
okay, how weird is it that this person that I don't know from anybody has this picture of me on his phone and remembers me from, at that point it was probably 12 years ago that I had been on that stage. And I'm thinking, this is the most uncomfortable I maybe have felt in a really long time.
So you asked me, why do you have that on your phone? And I said, you did win, didn't you?
And I did. So I was like, well, that's plausible, but this is still confusing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a pretty good.
It was terrifying.
It flustered you a little
It
bit.
flustered me, and I literally couldn't get through the 30-second interview. It took us like 20 takes.
Yes, it did.
It was, and every time we'd start talking, you'd be like, how about those stilettos? Are those hard to walk in? And I would have to just like fall apart and start over again.
And I'd say you have stage fright.
Yeah, stage fright. You got some stage fright? I'm like, oh my God. It was
It was a fun time.
It was the best I've ever been. And I mean, the confusion that was running through my brain in those few minutes, I was like, this is the weirdest situation I have ever been in, and I don't even know how to go forward.
Well, it was like fly by the seat of my pants because I didn't know how to prank you or what to do. But,
You pulled it off like a rock star.
well, it worked out good.
Yeah, I will never forget it. I might be emotionally scarred. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But you're kind of known for that, though, aren't you? You're pretty
I
good
do.
at this.
I'm kind of quick-witted when it comes to things, and
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with two brothers, so like we're pretty good at coming back at each other. So,
Yeah. Do you guys still have that relationship?
oh yeah, absolutely,
You guys get each other all the time?
all the time.
Yeah. You got any good ones?
No, I can't. Nothing that comes
Nothing
to
that you
mind.
can.
Probably nothing I should say, but we're pretty good.
How about your the poor office help and board members of the NRCHA? Do you ever get any of them?
You know, I try to keep it to a minimum with them.
Yeah.
There's times I want to, but no, I'm pretty good with it.
Pretty professional, on
Yeah.
point. Well, that's not
Now maybe the
entertaining.
cattle crew, I'll veer off a little bit.
Well, tell us a little bit about those people that work so hard behind the scenes that we haven't really addressed yet. All the people that work in the office there, the board members. I mean, for me, they're just a name on a piece of paper occasionally. I don't know anything about what happens in that side of the world.
You know, the employees of the NRCHA are great, and it's grown so much that we've had to hire more and more people, and you know they work so hard. I don't know exactly what they're paid, but they're probably underpaid for what all they do. There's so many things that go on now, and as we get bigger, each thing develops, and it takes more and more people to run. These people, they give it their all, and I'm proud of them, and it's they're just people like you and I, and it's they have families, they have friends, they have their hobbies, horses probably, and things like
Right.
that, and so it's a full deal for them, and like our like our cattle crews and just people that are not staff members but actually contract labor. It's a lot for someone who has a real job, or maybe they own cattle themselves, and to leave and give us 10 days or 2 weeks or sometimes almost 3 weeks of their life is a big thing, because they're taking off vacation from whatever company they're working for, or they're having to pay someone to take care of their cattle while they're working for us.
Right. And
And-
horses and
Or their spouse.
spouse, kids.
And I know from having cattle in my life, every time I left, there would be something out on the road or something, a broken water trough. And so I was glad to get rid of my cattle, because I'm still married that way.
Right.
But they say having a boat, the best part of having a boat is the day you buy them and the day you sell them. Well, that's kind of cattle when you're working all these shows. It's a big thing. And so these guys work so hard for us, and they don't want to do wrong. They want to do the right thing, and it's hard to take away from your lifestyle and spend 3 weeks,
Yeah.
2 weeks of your life away from your family, especially if you have kids and
2 or
young
3 weeks at a
kids.
time, and then multiple times.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough, and then you want to have a little fun, part of getting away from your real life job, and then you get work 15, 20 hours in a day, and you get 4 hours of sleep sometimes, and it's a little rugged on, and it's tough, and they're just like you and I, so
Right. I mean, I know you guys work really hard to try to manage those schedules and make sure that we're not having those 14, 16-hour days, but it happens.
it happens, and there's nothing you can do about it. Once you have a schedule set, you don't know what the entries are going to be, and it's hard to guesstimate. And so, we try to give people breaks, whether you're at the back gate or you're in the cattle pens or whatnot. But it doesn't always happen, and so
No. And there's so many people, the judges, the announcers, I mean,
Right.
the photographer, the videographer. I
Right.
mean, there are so many people that have to be sitting there paying attention to every run.
and it's hard on judges to go 15, 16 hours
Oh.
a day.
I don't know how they do it.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And but we've gotten better at trying to schedule judges and having multiple judges in multiple arenas and trying to give people breaks and that kind of thing.
I feel like you guys have done a really good job of that with the World Show.
Yeah.
Having multiple arenas, different sets of judges for different types of classes, like trying to
Right.
break that up.
And obviously you can't make everybody happy. It's tough when you have something open going and some non-pros going in another arena, because they need help
right? Their coach might be
Coach,
showing.
exactly, and that's always going to be a problem.
There's no way you guys can work around that.
No.
I mean,
But the cow horse people are good enough that they can ask somebody to come help them, and
that's one of the best things about this sport is the community. I mean,
Absolutely.
the number of people that will fill in and stand on the rail for you and help you through that process as a non-pro. It's overwhelming in a good way. It's very appreciated.
right, and out of all the shows I have worked, cow horse are the best people in the bunch. They are good people.
They are good people, for sure. Do you help other associations with managing their shows?
I've done a few quarter horse shows in the Ranners, and excuse me, it's been okay, but not like a cow horse.
I feel like coming from the background that most people come from in this industry, the ranching, the I don't know. I feel like it kind of grounds people a little bit, and I think a lot of people, while they might not understand everything that happens at a show, they understand hard work and they understand what goes into cattle and what goes into all of that process. And I think it draws a different type of crowd than a lot of other types of shows. Not that those people are bad or wrong or anything like that. I think it's just a different mentality.
It is a different mentality.
I think while we're all here to be competitive and we're all here to do our best, I think we're also very aware that everybody's here to be competitive and do their best, and that we all just need to be nice to each other in the long run.
Yeah, I think so, and you know, you can see that it's evident, like at the back gate. There's tons of competitors cheering for other competitors, and they all want to see their horses do well.
Right.
And they want to see your horse do well.
Yeah.
And obviously it is a competition, and at the end of the day, they all want to win money. But this group of people they're really good.
Right. It does you no good to wish that somebody else is going to fail.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
that doesn't make you the best you can be.
Right.
It just made you,
Exactly.
you might win by default, but who wants to win by default?
No.
Nobody wants to win
does.
by default. Right. So wish everybody does well and wish that you're the best of that day. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
best you can do.
I would much rather be in a really tough class and maybe place 5th or 6th, but know that my horse did the best he could that day and that I showed him to the best of his ability, than walk out first and feel like I got it, but I didn't earn it.
Right. And you know, I think even the Vistadores ride, you know, when you walk away from something like that and your horse was good to you, it's a good feeling.
Yeah,
Whether you won anything or you didn't win anything,
Yeah.
if your horse was good for you, that's a win.
for sure.
And I try to look at things day by day as a win. So if you have a good day, you got through a job, or doesn't matter if it's cow horse or mowing the lawn. If you got through all the things you wanted to get done, that's a good day.
It's a good day, for
And
sure.
I try to live by that.
I agree. I think it's a good way to live and not overwhelm ourselves. I mean, we all do. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, if you can just live in that frame of mind and not worry about what everybody else has got going on and just do your best every day, then
Absolutely.
you're probably gonna be a lot better off.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, you see everything that happens behind the scenes at a show, and you know, as non-pros, we don't get to see that. So my big question for you would be, what advice could you give us non-pros, maybe even open riders, to help make these shows run smoothly and help, you know, make it easier on the crews and the help? What can we do to help facilitate that?
You know, I think honestly, the cow horse people are probably the best. So it's a matter of, you know, when you have big days, it's being ready and prompt and ready to go. It's not the amount of time that you're showing in the arena, it's the time in between each horse that slows the day down.
Right.
And so by being ready and punctual and ready to go in, for one thing, it makes the judges happy. They don't want to sit there and wait on you to go in the pen.
No.
And so by being ready to go and just being prompt
Right.
makes everybody happy. It makes the judges happy. It makes, actually, when you can get done an hour earlier than you probably should have, you get to go to dinner. You get to ride your next horse. You get to do things and
Sleep.
sleep. Exactly. And so I think just being, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but just being in a good frame of mind and I try to wish everybody luck at the back gate, and I try to make them smile before they go in, and have a good attitude. And I think that just transfers to every other person.
I agree with you.
I think if everybody's happy, they have a better show.
Yeah, that is something I've noticed when you're running the gate. Like, you always wish us good luck as we walk in, and honestly, it's like I always forget you're going to as I'm walking in because I'm so focused on what I'm going to do, and it's such a cool, like, it snaps me back to reality for a moment, and like there's a little weight lifted. So something that simple is impactful. Seriously, like, it's impactful to me as a competitor to just get that last little, like, hey, you're fine, go get it, like, good luck,
Yeah.
have
And
a
why
good time.
shouldn't you? I mean,
Yeah.
I know, clearback can be in a competitor at little things that I used to get to be a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
It never bothered me when I team roped, but when I roped calves, it was just me by myself, and I would make myself sick to my stomach behind the
Oh man.
shoots, and the little deal of like, hey, cowboy, you got this, like, just takes your mind off of it,
Yep.
puts you in a different frame of mind. It builds you up a little bit, and I think non-pro wise is supporting the rest of the people
Yeah.
that are going in.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
If
Absolutely.
everybody's happy, they're going to transfer that to their horse and have probably a better show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like you said, the being timely about getting in and out of the arena. I know I've goofed on that and been like finished my run and been so focused on what maybe I felt like I should have done differently or whatever that I'm thinking about that, and I'm not thinking about getting the heck out of the way so the next person can have their turn.
Yeah,
you know, and then all of a sudden you like snap to reality and like, oh crap, I need to get out of here, right?
Right, exactly.
And just those little moments. I mean, if you waste 30 seconds and then 100 other people waste 30 seconds, by golly, you have really extended the show.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And like you said, like waiting to get in. I mean, you don't really want to make your judges mad before you even start.
Exactly. and that does kind of happen sometimes.
Absolutely. You know,
They're waiting on you.
Yeah. And why shouldn't it affect? I mean, honestly, like, you know, especially with these big shows where these guys are working 14, 15-hour days, like, respect their time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Respect their time.
And by being consistent and doing that, we can kind of project a better day for you. Like, we can tell you when you're going to go if we have a consistent pattern
Yep.
to go by.
Yeah, it's so funny because you'll hear people behind the scenes be like, wow, this show's running really slow, but 95% of the time, probably, I'm guessing, that has more to do with the competitors than the actual people facilitating the show.
Right.
I would guess.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah. And it's amazing. You know, I do a lot of videoing and stuff, so I'm always trying to gauge schedules, and it's amazing when somebody takes an extra 30 seconds, and that happens a few times, how far off it can get.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, it's amazing. Like I'll try in the mornings to time a few sets and kind of get an idea where we're at and where we're going to take a lunch break, and then all of a sudden you get to a set where 2 or 3 people slow down, and then all of a sudden you're 10 minutes or 15 minutes off.
Yeah.
And if you're planning lunches or you're planning things, like, it really can throw you off. And so they get to lunch break and their food's been sitting there for the judges for 30 minutes or something. They're upset.
Now they're eating a cold lunch.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
on top of it, yeah, you don't want to be the first person after that lunch.
Not at all.
Yeah, no, those are all great things to be mindful of. Any other major tips, or is that the biggest?
You know, all in all, I think non-pro wise is pretty good. I think I think they pay attention, and I think once you start a pattern, they all kind of follow the pattern. So like boxing. So a lot of times a boxer will get done and then they'll follow the steer to the other end of the arena. And so I try to get the announcer to say, hey, can you hold that steer at the end, please, till we get it cleared, or that kind of thing. That's other things that take time. And
Right.
so if the boxer does help put it up or hold it there till the guy can clean the arena, then that makes it so much better. So little things like that
For sure.
just make a day go so much better.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a big one for sure. And again, I mean, everybody has had that moment. You know, we get so focused. We've worked for
Absolutely.
months for this one show, and we're so focused on what we're doing and how well we're doing it that it's really easy to forget like that everybody's waiting on you to finish.
And I understand it.
Yeah, yeah. But it's great advice.
Yeah.
For sure, because it can drastically change the direction and length of a show.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's all great stuff.
And we want to get you in and out in a timely fashion. And like I said, you know, for a non-pro, it's not just about the horse show. It's, you know, if you're getting to take vacation from your job and you want to have a good experience, the whole experience, whether it's, you know, going out to dinner with your spouse or your kids or whatever, and actually getting a chance to instead of eating McDonald's every night.
Right.
And so we want to get you in and get you out and
Yeah.
get you to where you can have some fun too.
Yeah, and get the show wrapped up so you can go to bed and get
Right.
some sleep and yeah,
Get ready for the next day.
absolutely. I mean, I know that there's days where I've had to show at 11 o'clock at night, and nobody wants to do that.
No.
Nobody wants to do that. And it's just, I mean, sometimes it's just the nature of the beast, and there's nothing that can be done.
Right,
But
exactly.
and it's what we sign up for, so you
Yeah.
know, I don't want to complain too loud at all. But
Exactly.
but yeah, let's all do what we can to make it go along faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we've kind of skipped over it, but how many days a year are you on the road?
Well, I don't know exactly, but I would say pretty close to 3 months of the year.
3 months of the year.
You know,
Wow.
makes for a really good marriage when you don't see your wife very often. You can't argue, you can't fight.
You can't
do
fight.
anything.
Is she happy to see you when you come home?
Yeah, she actually is.
Well, then you're winning. You're winning. She's not
No.
like, oh no, he's back.
She probably doesn't appreciate having to get up earlier to feed in the mornings before she has to go to work, but
Yeah.
she doesn't complain. She's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like she's very supportive, and that's a lot. I mean, that's a hard strain on any marriage. That's a lot to ask of your partner.
Absolutely. She's got a job and she's off to the office pretty early in the mornings and long days. She's a banker, so
Yeah. Yeah.
so she's usually I feed in the mornings, she feeds at night, and so
And then you
she's doing
skip
both.
out of it. Yeah,
I
I'm
skip
sure
out.
she's dressed nice and
oh no, she gets up early, goes out, and then jumps back in the
then
shower
goes back and
again.
then yeah, she can't do it on her way down the driveway by any
Right,
means. That's
exactly.
unfortunate. Yeah, that's how I feed, but I'm normally going to a barn somewhere, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. I can show up covered in hay when I go to work. It's all right. Well, that's a very supportive wife. 3 months a year is a huge amount of time
Yeah, it
to
is.
be away from home and your spouse and your family. I know you've got, is it a nephew?
So I have 2 nieces and 1 nephew. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
My
yeah.
nephew's my little bud, so Ty.
Nice.
So he's kind of grown up around the shop and doing stuff, and now he's just about ready to get his driver's license, and so he's built him a little truck, and he's got it all dialed in, so he's happy.
Is that a project you've helped him with?
A little bit. His dad's helped him quite a bit with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I helped him. So the truck was my brother-in-law's, and he sold it to him, and so he's got him a little flatbed, 1-ton four-wheel drive. So he's all jazzed. It's all painted up, and
I love it.
it's a pretty cool little rig.
That's awesome. Good for him for putting in the work to get it all done.
Yeah, he's been hard at it. He's got a couple buddies, so he's kind of a gearhead now. And
Cool.
he rodeoed quite a bit, and his sister does, and she's going off to college and in Texas A&M, and so he got to where he just didn't want to compete with his sister, so he got into the mechanic side of things and kind of gave up the roping, and
Yeah. Is she a pretty competitive breakaway roper?
yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's off to, she's a senior this year, so she's off to Texas A&M next year.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough when your sibling's kind of really good at something.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to compete with her. So
Yeah.
whether it was showing cattle or showing whatever, he had to show a pig. He didn't want to compete with his sister. So he was pretty smart.
Yeah, it sounds like he's real smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So does all your family live right there in the same area then?
Yeah, we're all real close. So if you drew a straight line, my 2 brothers and I, we all live within 4 miles of each other, but all in a east and west straight line. We're all off the same street, about the same distance. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So my youngest brother bought my parents' old place.
Okay.
And so my middle brother, Justin, is 2 miles west of where we grew up, and I'm 2 miles east of where we grew up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we've kind of all
How
So,
fortunate that you all, like, that you guys found properties right
yeah.
there.
And then
Yeah.
my parents, they moved to the ranch and built the house at the ranch, so they live up at the base of the Sierras, a little bit further up than we do.
Very cool. I bet that's beautiful country.
It's really pretty.
Northern, because that's pretty northern, right?
Well, it's right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
But like where my parents live, it's all oak trees, and so it's like I'm at 400 feet elevation, they're at 1,500, and it's only,
Oh, okay.
I think it's maybe 9 miles from my house, just up the hill.
Got some grade to the country then, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's real pretty.
That's nice that you have all your family close like that. That's it's not many people still have those tight relationships as adults. So,
Yeah, we still have my mom's real big on Sunday dinners, so
oh, that's
if
cool.
we're all home, we all go. If only my wife and I, then we're the only two, but whoever's home on Sundays, they always go for Sunday night dinner. She fixes it every Sunday.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do your brothers travel for work as well, or?
No, my brother Justin just retired from drilling wells. He was a well driller, and now he has his own testing company where he tests wells. So,
Okay.
like for the state of California, he travels around and tests as they're drilling wells for cities and counties and stuff. And then he's got his catering license, and he built a really cool barbecue trailer. And so he's barbecuing and doing stuff. And then my brother Travis, who used to work for me, got into fighting fires with a dozer and did that for a little while. And now he has a little shop, and he's kind of doing a little bit of welding and repair work. And his wife is an ag teacher. And
Nice.
So, yeah,
Very cool.
yeah,
So all pretty ag based
yeah,
and
all ag based.
yeah, work with your hands kind of people. Yeah. So you're here for Gym State and for Idaho next week.
Yep.
The Idaho Rain Cow Horse Association show, and that wraps up towards the end of
Sunday.
May. Yeah. And then are you headed straight to
Straight from here
Scottsdale?
to Scottsdale.
Wow. Wow. So your wife's not going to see you for weeks.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yep.
Yeah. So flying directly there, what does it look like when you show up? Like where do you start?
So, actually, Chris Streeter, the other guy I work with, he's supposed to come in on Friday. And so they'll start building, so the North Hall, basically, they'll start building our cutting pen.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get that set, and then we'll start putting the wood on the back walls for our backdrop and everything. So that should be all built before I get there. And then I'll come in on Sunday, and we'll start hanging signs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll put all the sponsor stuff up and get that, all the markers and all that stuff done. And both arenas.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously we have other people, vendors and stuff moving in, so we'll help them all move trailers and stuff in and with the forklift and get them all set. And we'll start receiving cattle.
How many truckloads? I mean, does that take days? I mean, how long does
To
it
get
take
cattle
you
in?
to get the cattle in? Yeah.
No, it won't take. We can
get 'em
within
in
2 days. Yeah,
2
we'll have
days.
'em all
2
there,
days you'll get them in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it all rolls pretty good. It's a big facility. Obviously, that's where Bear Jackson is, and I think there's like 13 arenas there. It's quite a complex.
I've never gotten to go there, but I've heard it's really cool.
There's polo fields. It's all kinds of stuff there. It's pretty neat.
Polo fields, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
We should take our cow horses out there and see what
Yeah,
happens.
there you go. But yeah, no, it's a good facility. Obviously, it gets a little warm there. But yeah, tons of arenas if you can't find a place to ride. So a lot of people want to take the 3-year-olds and get them around. We've got some pretty good practice pins, so a lot of people practice.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's a really nice facility.
So, I mean, you're handling every aspect of the setup. You just talked about making sure the vendors are moved in. Like you're really overseeing the entire setup.
Yeah, Chris and I, we do, and he's there before me, so he gets started in doing all that stuff. But like a lot of the vendors have trailers and fifth wheels and goosenecks, and so they have to come in on the mezzanine of the facility, and so usually I have to do that with a forklift, and they can't drive in there,
Gotcha.
most of them. So we'll set all those up and get them in the right spots, and it takes a little bit, and once they get set, it's not too bad. There's several vendors in that place. But yeah, no, it's You get used to it. It's not the hardest thing is going to a new place.
Right.
Once you've been once or twice, then you kind of know what worked and what didn't work, and then you can kind of move forward with that.
Right. Once the logistics are all worked
Yeah.
out.
Once you figure out who needs to be where and what, and so they're usually pretty good. Vendors are usually pretty good about saying, "Hey, I'll be there at 5 o'clock on this day. Can you get me moved in?" And so we're ready for them when they get there.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how overwhelming a new facility and new process would
Yeah,
be.
it's a little bit tough.
I bet. Give you a bit of an ulcer.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
And I know they fly you around sometimes to look at new venues and new options too. So you have a lot of input on that as well, don't you?
Yeah, and not that it means anything, but I'll put my 2 cents worth in, and if I can help in some way, figure out what to do. You go to a new facility and they say, "Oh yeah, we can do that for you. We can do that for you," and then you get there and they go like, "No, we can't do that for you," and you're like, "Now what do we do?" So yeah, that does happen.
Wow, that would be
They
difficult.
want you there and they want you to take over, and then all of a sudden, once you get there, they're like, "Nah, we can't do that."
Oh no,
So that happens once in a while.
that would be a struggle.
It is,
Yeah,
but we figure out what to do and make it happen.
yeah. I'm sure there's some fires being put out behind the scenes that none of us ever know about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's like they say, you have a wedding and you're having all these problems and no one ever notices.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
just take care of them and move on.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. So, what's your expectations for the derbies? Do you have numbers? Do you have expectations on?
I've been so busy, and then I was on the ride, so I actually don't know the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're down by much, if we are any.
Good.
And I know this year's a little tougher, but we might be down just a smidge. But I think, honestly, our numbers are probably pretty good. It's a good place to take non-compete horses.
Mm-hmm.
So, there could be 350 pretty easy non-compete horses, guys that want to bring their 3-year-olds while they're showing and keep them going. So, which helps out. It's a good
Yeah,
thing to have. So, because they have places to ride.
absolutely.
So yeah, I have good expectations of it
Good.
coming out and being all right.
Do you know how many stalls there are at that facility? I mean, that must be huge.
Yeah, so not as many stalls as you would think.
Really?
But there's over 1,000.
Yeah,
They're pretty close. So
that's a lot of horses.
yeah, and they can always bring portables in. The hard part is portables out in the sun are pretty hot.
Pretty hot. Yeah.
So that makes it a little tough.
Especially Scottsdale in June. I bet that's something you really have to take into consideration when you're planning the show.
Yep, exactly.
You guys do a lot of portacools and things like that,
Yes,
right?
A lot of portables.
Yeah. And people just rent those there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only time we have problems is trying to keep all the circuits open and not popping breakers, and we get too many of them on one circuit, and
Yeah.
which is a pretty notorious thing. You're running around checking breakers.
For sure. Yeah. You better hope you had some really good electricians,
Yeah,
electrical engineers.
Exactly. Which are usually facility guys, so
Yeah. Yeah.
they do send some city guys out. It is a city facility, so
Oh, good. Yeah.
and they do have some city electricians. Of course, it's a Sunday afternoon and they're all off, so you're running around trying to find out where the breakers are and everything.
Oh, that sounds like an enjoyable experience.
Oh yeah.
So, do you guys have the cattle? How do you guys house the cattle there and not let them get too hot?
So they are outside.
They are.
So yeah, we try to get them in a little bit early, so they're in the air conditioner for a little bit. Ideally, you'd like to have them in there for multiple hours, trying to cool them down. Obviously, you can't get their core temperature down in 1 or 2 hours,
Right.
and it's been an issue we've been trying to fight, and we're trying to come up with some new ideas
Mm-hmm.
and try to figure out how to do it. And we're going to try a little tent this year. Obviously, it's not air conditioned, so.
Right.
But maybe if we get them in that tent and then get them into the air conditioning behind the wall before they go,
Right.
we can make it a little bit better.
Right. Well, and I'm sure the cattle are pretty local, transported from pretty local, so they're used to those
that
temperatures.
climate, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you hauled from up here to temperatures like that, you'd have a different situation.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
they are pretty climatized for that country.
Yeah, for sure. But it's nice that you guys have enough space to at least get them in the air conditioning for a little while.
For a little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So anything new to expect at the Derby this year, or is it business as usual?
No, I think it's a pretty normal year. We're going to have our stray gathering deal, and
So explain that, because that's not something that you see at every show by any means.
no, if we have an opportunity, we try to have a little fun event, and so it gives these guys, a lot of contestants, even some locals come in and compete, and then we bring the top 3 teams usually back, and we cow cut them off, and then they run for the pot. So it's a kind of a fun event.
So for those who haven't seen it, explain how it works.
Usually it's 2 teams in the arena. There's 2 steers, and they come out and rope, and everybody does it kind of different, but it's kind of fun, kind of Western. Obviously, we're competing against others, so it's timed, and so it's kind of fun. We used to have some calf Brandons back in the day, and it's kind of a neat deal to have.
Gotcha. Sorry, I got slightly distracted by our announcer bull over there making funny faces at us through the window, doing a weird little robot walk. So sorry about that.
He wasn't doing the like.
No, that would have been hilarious though. The descending down the invisible stairs. That would have
Yeah.
been awesome. That would have been great. So on that stray gathering, so your time stops when you get dallied and get the cow stopped,
Yeah.
facing you. I'm assuming cow facing you.
Yeah. So depending on where you're at, some people make you get off and put the front rope on the front legs.
Oh, really?
So yeah, depending on how each group of people does it a little different, and so it and then kind of our deal kind of changes a little bit every year depending on what we got going. So, but yeah, no, they're fun events, and it's kind of nice to, even though you're at the showgrounds, just to do something
A
different.
little different. Absolutely. Yeah.
So a lot of these guys have turnback horses and different stuff that they're roping on, and so.
Yeah, I can imagine. I bet it gets pretty entertaining, especially if they have to hop off their horse and.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, obviously these guys don't want to get hurt either, but sometimes they get mowed over or something
Well,
happens.
we all get a little competitive in the heat of the moment. Things
Yeah.
happen. Yeah,
But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
that sounds like a good time.
Yep, absolutely.
I haven't gotten to witness that one yet, so I look forward to it someday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll have to.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
For sure. So, any other new things on the horizon that we can expect within the NRCHA?
Not that I'm aware of so far, but we're trying to move forward and trying to make things better. And each show we try to learn something from and try to fix anything, little thing that we've had a problem, and hopefully it gets better and better every year.
Yeah, I think it
Hopefully.
has. I mean, historically, I haven't been doing this a long period of time by most people's standards, but I mean, just the progress I've witnessed in my span of it, you guys are definitely working hard behind the scenes and making improvements, and what a great community to be a part of.
And there's good sponsors, and there's good people backing it, and there's so many to mention,
Right.
but there's so many good people that are backing this, and it takes all those people to do this.
It does.
It's entries and all that stuff barely cover costs, and so to make those purses bigger and you make them get bigger and bigger and bigger, we've got to have these sponsors, and
Absolutely.
it's so good to have such a good group of sponsors to deal with. And
For sure. Well, and there's another piece of advice. I mean, you really want to pay it forward. Make sure you're supporting your sponsors out there.
absolutely,
Tell them thanks. Shake their
Absolutely.
hand if you see them.
whether you're wearing
Yeah,
a product they're doing or wearing a hat they're doing or
absolutely.
you've buying their feed, it's you've got to support those sponsors.
Yep. I agree with you entirely. That's I mean, we're all buying those products anyways, and it's really easy to make sure that you're supporting the people that are supporting you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's great advice. I mean, another group of people that are so supportive in this industry is the breeders. I mean, putting out these horses that are just,
Absolutely.
I
It's
mean,
amazing.
the quality of horses out there now is just mind-blowing.
It's amazing, and even some of the mares are just great producers of some of
Oh,
these horses.
I mean, there's so much of it is these quality mares with all their earnings and all of their performance history, and then, I mean, yeah, absolutely, I agree with you entirely. Yeah.
It's pretty neat to watch. I've been very fortunate getting to work for this organization to see a horse at a 3-year-old and watch it through its 4 and 5 and 6 year old, and then get to watch it in the world's greatest horseman. It's kind of a really cool thing to be a part of for that many years, to where you see all these horses and where they end up. And
For sure. And now with the addition of the Run for the Million and American Performance Horse,
course.
like we're just seeing these bridle horses be put into the spotlight more and more. And how cool, like, and how great for the industry that we're concerned about keeping these horses healthy and performing well, and proving that we can keep them healthy and have longevity. And
Right,
and
absolutely.
I mean, it definitely changes your motivation on your horsemanship standards as well.
and actually, the end product is the bridle horse.
Absolutely, it's what it's supposed to be.
And so
Yeah.
I'm assuming, I don't know 100% how it all got started, but I'm assuming that all these guys were building bridle horses, and they were like, well, it takes a little time to do this.
Yep.
Let's have a little competition on our way there. And so that's when the snaffle bit and the hackamore and all this two-rein all got started. But the final product is the bridle.
The bridle horse, absolutely. That was the Vaquero tradition right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what a cool art, and a great horse is super fun. A great bridle horse is really
It's fun
fun
to
to
ride.
watch and ride.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's sure great to see it growing in that direction, and I think it's going to be beneficial to the industry on all levels.
Yeah,
For sure.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, Morgan, I know you have a million things to do with your back-to-back shows, and you're probably starving. You've been working all day, and then I forced you in here under the spotlights for this interview, but I sure appreciate your time,
Absolutely.
and
Thank you for having me.
it's always fun to get together with you, and thanks for not pranking me this time and embarrassing
No
the
problem.
bejesus out of me like last time. So, but hopefully it will at least entertain other people, if nothing else.
Absolutely. Thank you. You're going to thank your help too? Or what?
Well, yeah, my behind-the-scenes daughter back there running the cameras and the mics, she's pretty handy. I've got her good
She's
and
all over
trained.
it.
She's on it, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect, except for that chair you left right behind me.
I know, except for that chair that we left in the shot. Well, we are pretty green. I'm not gonna lie. This is the Greener Than Grass, which is a Gym State term podcast. So,
Oh, perfect. I like
yeah.
it.
Well, thanks for suffering along with us, and
I enjoyed it.
good luck over the next 2 weeks, and then on to the Derby.
Yep. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I sure appreciate you coming along for the ride, and don't forget to use more leg.